Hey guys, welcome back to the Deeply Graphic Design Cast. I am Nick Longo, your host. Today we have Ilana and Katie from Goodtype. They just talked about a fantastic little experiment they're doing, and it is an experiment on experimentation. They are doing the year of experimentation in their business. They want to explore the intersection of art, happiness, and the income they can make through creative experimentation. And they're setting themselves up for a whole year to see what they could do to match a $100,000 goal that they can make on just experimenting through great type and fun stuff that they post on both their website, their Instagram, and on their podcast. So they talk a lot about ways that you can actually try doing some experimentations in your own world and find maybe a unique new revenue stream on top of your freelance business or on top of your 9-to-5. So I hope you guys enjoy this. This is Ilana and Katie from Goodtype. Here it is. I think you guys are the perfect duo to start a new tradition. Lightning round right at the beginning. Are you ready?
Oh my God.
We're ready.
Wow.
Oh my God. We have to be.
Okay, here we go. What's a typeface you secretly hate but everybody else loves?
Ooh.
I'm scared to say anything. Like,
I guess
Or
it's
style.
comfort me.
You can even say
I don't-
style.
I don't hate it at all, but Futura is just
That's what I
so
was gonna
overused.
You guys are so in sync.
I think it gets slapped on a brand. They're like, I feel safe using this because, you know, I know it's solid. People aren't going to get too mad.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? Let's explore some other options.
Nice.
Maybe.
I was gonna say
I'll
the
take a
exact
Poppins
same
any
thing.
day.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, there's something. It's too wide sometimes, like in upper and lower. I get you. It
Is
doesn't
there a
look good when you.
variable?
To
of
the
it yet?
Futura people out there, but
Yeah.
Good question. Maybe that's what's needed. Okay.
Yeah. I feel like a variable of it would be super cool because then you
Yeah.
could like kind of play with it a
true.
little bit.
Like
bring
Futura
I
some-
love a
new.
variable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe we have.
What
All
a
right, collab.
question.
Maybe it's a collab. All right, next question. Design trend that needs to die like yesterday.
Ooh. This is not a design trend, but a social media design thing. We were just talking about this, but I'm really sick of seeing the same tutorial posted from 1,700 different people. Like, remember the days where you would see a cool tutorial and then you would share, like, this person shared this cool
Yeah.
tutorial. You should watch it instead of doing the same thing in your own, literally with your own music. I just would like to see people, like, supporting where they learn something.
I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen
Katie?
a lot of low contrast kind of tone on tone stuff lately, especially on Instagram, and I struggle to read it, and legibility is really important to me. So I'm going to say that.
Good call. And I'm seeing it in branding and packaging a lot too. And most cases
I like
are
a
doing
little
it quite
vibration. I like a little something going on where you're like, ooh, I'm intrigued. But if it makes it really difficult to read and that's not part of the point of it, then I get frustrated.
It's funny
Yeah.
that you say that because vibration is often hard to read, but you're like,
Well, I know,
I
but
want it to be
I like
hard
just
to read, but not in that way.
Well, it also depends if that's part of the
Right.
shtick of it, or
Yeah.
you know, I like a little something that's like, oh, that's a spicy little color combo, and I'm leaning
Yeah.
in, but I can still read it and I can still differentiate.
It helps define the legibility, especially if it's a font or type. It helps define the legibility of it when there is that little something between two tones that are like far too close. Okay.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, next question. What is the biggest misconception people have about being a type expert?
Well, they think we specifically they think Goodtype like we know everything about type that there ever was, and we sure don't.
That's it.
And we know a lot more about lettering than about type design. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Good.
I think that's my biggest misconception is that I'm gonna know all fonts that ever existed.
Yeah.
And be able to name them
No.
all. We did in graphic design school though have to be able to look at the typeface and then say what it was with like 200 different typefaces. We
No,
were all
that
we
seems
all had
toxic.
Yeah.
I can't do it anymore, but we
Yeah,
had
don't.
like little index cards and we were all like practicing in
It's
the
like-
library.
It's like hazing to get into the sorority of graphic designers.
That's true.
You have to
I
learn
know.
all of
literally,
these typefaces.
literally, our first assignment in graphic design school got called hazing, and they don't do it anymore.
That seems
See, just like sororities and
beneficial.
fraternities.
Yeah.
There's too many fonts now to have. Like, I can understand that back in the day when, even before like desktop publishing, like, oh sure, like show me fonts and I should know them. But like now with how many billions there are, it's like it's impossible.
Oh yeah,
there's no way. There's no way. Yeah,
last question. Last question. If Goodtype was a cocktail, what would it be?
Oh.
Or tell me some ingredients.
Well, I think actually
what would be in there?
Yeah, Katie and I personally would have very different mixtures, I think, tinctures. But as a brand, I don't know, like concoctions.
Yeah.
Like a tincture, like you put a bunch of stuff together. I don't know, maybe that's not it.
Yeah, the little eyedropper thing.
Yeah.
I feel like I would want it to be a cocktail that's like approachable. It wouldn't be too snooty.
Good.
It would have some color to it, maybe.
It would have color. It would be a little fun and a little playful. It would have a little zest, like some kind of citrusy situation.
Okay. It would have a pun for a name.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's a
Get
good
back
one.
to us on the name of it.
Yeah.
At the next conference, we will have all the ingredients ready, and we will find a bartender and say,
we'll have a label designed, of course.
Exactly. And we'll take 3 Goodtypes, please.
I love that. That's a cool question.
I don't know. Maybe it's like a Paloma or something.
Oh, those are... Yeah, those. I just got back from Vegas, and that was all I drank. Love them. They're so good. All right, guys. Well, I want to intro the topic here a little bit. We're talking a little bit about the year of exploration or experimentation, what you guys did. And before we get into it, if you guys can give our listeners, I'm sure they know you and probably have watched you before or have seen a good talk from you in the past, but give us a brief kind of explanation of Goodtype and your backgrounds.
Yeah. Katie, do you want me to take this one or do you want to do it?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, well, Goodtype started as a feature account. Our founder, Bodhi, was literally going for a bike ride along the coast and just started taking pictures of all the beautiful type. And this was like pre-Instagram today. I mean, this was a long time ago. And it was really about connecting with people who love type. I mean, hence the name, Goodtype.
Yeah.
And beautiful art, and just I think really one of the first accounts to like tag people who were doing the art. And from there were challenges like Goodtype Tuesday, where you would do your own spin on a challenge, and really creating this community of people who just geek out over type. And so since we've come in, we were tasked with bringing education to the platform, and we really just feel passionate about. We believe everyone deserves to love their job. And so helping people feel more confident in their pricing or giving them the tools and resources that we wish we had had. You know, design school is great, but there's so much to learn outside of that. Like pricing your work isn't something that's covered, at least not in our design school experience. And yeah, just giving people kind of a safe space where they can learn more about growing their career in the type space.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And now this year we're venturing into, we started the Goodtype Studio, which is Alana and my collaborative design studio where we do custom lettering and type and illustration. And we're really excited for this new phase of Goodtype where we're kind of getting back to our artist roots.
That's great. Love that. I love the idea of going back to the origins. And it's like, I always tell my students that too. Like when you are out and about somewhere and you see something great, particularly in type or fonts or something, take that picture. Like you have every opportunity to do it. And you won't, if it's something in the passing, chances are you'll forget it and it'll never inspire some work later down the road.
Yeah. The tricky thing is that you need to then go back and save them to a folder. Which is like what none of us ever do.
Not your camera roll.
Yeah, that trend where people are like, there's
your
a
camera
murder.
rolls look like
Exactly. It's like people like us. It's like our camera. Like I went to Disney World with my kids, and all I took were like no pictures of me and my kids, all pictures of the amazing signage there. Like actually, really, really great work, Disney. Way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Katie mentioned our studio, but now we're doing the year. I guess it's not a year of experiment. It's like however long we decide it is. But we felt pretty burnt out, and we found ourselves leaning more into the business side of running a brand. And we really got detached from creating artwork for the sake of creating artwork and for clients. And so for this year, we've been documenting our experiments And the first one we did is ongoing is, can we make in 1 year 100K just from art? Like, aside from our business, aside from teaching, aside from all the other things that we do at Goodtype, we host a virtual conference. Can we make 100K from our art? Which was like the goal when we were working for ourselves before Goodtype. And so it's just been so long since we've been in touch with that. And for some people in our community, they'd be like, absolutely, like, that's crazy, obviously. And then some people would be like, that's insane. That's such a big amount of money. And so we've been documenting that, and we just share updates, as the year goes on. And the one we just finished was an experiment on posting our work for 30 days on social media. And what came from that, both emotionally and I guess financially, or, inquiry wise. And so our next one is going to be all about outreach and what comes from doing outreach, versus posting on social media. So we're just kind of playing around and trying our best to document what we're doing.
Was it that missing component, like that you weren't doing anything that you felt experimental, that you're like, this is the perfect thing to kind of do in addition to the everyday?
The whole experiment came to be because we were just so burnt out.
Yeah.
And we were like, we need to carve time out to create again. And so, Katie, chime in.
And well, I think also the experiment mentality is really important, because we got, with all the education that we were doing and being in that space and seeing how some courses and teachers and educators talk about things in like a marketing way, is kind of like, I've figured it out, here's my special formula. And we don't necessarily subscribe to that sort of mentality around education. I don't think that there is a one-size-fits-all solution, especially when it comes to running an art business, because so much of it is personal and about what feels good to you. And so we certainly don't want to be like, we've got your everything in a box ready to go. Here's your 100K solution, just follow these simple steps. So we're approaching it as experiments because, we're transparently saying we don't know everything, and we want to try different things and figure out what works. And some things are going to surprise us, and, some things might validate hunches that we had. But I think it's really about that mindset. And then I also wanted to add on that something about the experiment too, outside of the making 100K, that's really important to us is the emotional side of it. Because we came from such a burned out place, and because, we're in the field of making art because it brought us joy at one point, and sometimes it's hard to, find that place again once you've monetized something. And so it's really important to us to center this experiment not around the money. The goal is something that we can track against, but we want to center it around what feels good to us and what feels like fulfilling and fun. And it's definitely not all about the money. That's just a kind of side thing that we want to, a side quest that we want to see if we can do, because it's important to find the intersection of what feels good and what we love, and what we can sustainably keep our family going on, like, financially. So we're looking for that sweet spot.
There's a reality there, right? You didn't call it like the year of revenue. It's like this year. I love the focus being put back on experimentation, because there's so many times it's not a part of my week. With you're just running to the next thing that's screaming the loudest sometimes, as whatever you do. I don't care what industry you're in or whatever, but I find that to be the one thing I'm losing out on the most and need to put the focus back on. What you guys both mentioned, burnout, and I think that's a thing that a lot of people are going through right now, because again, it's become more commerce than it has creative. What did burnout look like to you guys? What was that?
I think part of that, we found ourselves doing things that weren't that exciting. But I think also part of it is like you get stuck in this trap so much more easily when you're coming from a place of burnout. So like you get online and you see all this like toxic talk about, you see the marketing strategies happening and the people that you end up comparing yourself to. And I think part of burnout is being like uneven, so you can like easily tip the scale into like feeling down. And burnout like manifests differently for both of us. Yeah, Katie, I guess what do you feel like it looked like for you?
Depression.
Yeah.
Let's just be honest.
For me,
Yeah.
it looks like depression. I do have depression and anxiety and all the fun stuff. And I do have a therapist that is lovely and helps me, sit with those feelings and give me some strategies to work through it. But yeah, I saw myself really getting pretty low, and that I just knew, like, I've been in that state a couple of times in my life. And the last time I was in that state, I pivoted from my day job and I left and I started my own business. And it was almost scarier this time to see myself in a burnout, because what happens when you build your own job and then you get burned out from
Yeah.
it? It feels like, oh my God, but I built this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that a failure, right? It's the first thing you're going to ask. Yeah.
And I also felt really nervous about bringing it up to Alana, because I didn't want her to be scared of what that meant or whatever. So I kind of felt like, not that I had to come with a full solution, but that I kind of had to come to her, reassuring her that it's not that I wanted to leave her, because I think the two of us are something that works really well. I just needed to find like another reconfiguration of our business that would bring me back to a place of really getting excited to go to work every day.
Yeah.
I think for me, when I'm in a place of burnout, it's hard for me to like trust my inner voice. And I can also get really frustrated more easily because I'm like not fulfilled. And I have ADHD, like not diagnosed by TikTok, but like diagnosed when I was a child in military. Where did that come from? Oh my God, I tried to put like 8 words together there. I was never in the military. I think like elementary and I was going to say elementary and middle at the same time, and it turned into military, which is just weird.
Makes sense.
It was either elementary or middle school, and was treated and like had all the things to help me succeed. And I'm learning so much more about how that looks as an adult, and so my like window of tolerance gets really, really small. And I also have this like ongoing need to be productive, and when we're burnt out, like nothing can satisfy that. Like no checks of boxes can ever amount to like what I need to feel fulfilled, because I'm not doing work that's fulfilling. And so I think Katie was like ahead of the curve by bringing it to my attention, because I was like, oh yeah, I guess we aren't really doing anything fun. But I was so driven by like checking off a box that I like hadn't noticed.
But that's something that we both came together and we realized we both had been in the past very achievement for achievement's sake driven people. Maybe it was for different reasons or had different origin stories, but we were just trying to climb the career hill without asking ourselves, what do we do when we get to the top? Or is the top of this hill really where we want to be at the end of the day? And so this coming together after the burnout was a moment of realizing we had to dismantle this entire plan that we had made, because it wasn't actually based in authentically like what we wanted for ourselves. It was based in some kind of external validation loop.
Okay.
And so that, I think we're currently, while we do this experiment, it's about finding if we go away from needing the validation of others, what does it look like to purely be doing something for ourselves? And that might be like, we might be able to push Goodtype to this $1 million business that we could get acquired by, whoever. But is that really what feels good and what we want, or we could have a smaller business where we're doing smaller commission work and we're just really feeling good and we have time to be with our families. Like that's more of where we're headed.
We just want to nudge 2 letters together all day. You know, we just want to be zoomed in at 800%, making sure the S is in the exact right spot. Like that sounds really good.
It's such a balance. It's such a but also too, if you're entrepreneurial and you want to succeed in the creative industry, you have to battle both of these sides. That you want to be in those little moments where you're nudging a letter together, or on a balance sheet looking at good results.
Totally.
You know, and sometimes it's like, I brought this up in the last few interviews with people. It's like, I can't think of any other industry that really has that same amount of battle than a creative that's also got not just a pixel pusher sitting somewhere. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when you take control of something, that's 2 different sides of your mind. And both of you guys had such different fears, but I think any one person could say, I've got both of those, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
We all, no one's so defined in one little area of fear and like kind of anxiety when it comes to our business.
And we have 2 people and a business. I mean, we have several contractors we work with on retainer. You know, we have to keep things afloat, but we also have to balance that with doing the creative work. And so we are shifting between wearing those several hats.
Gotcha.
And so setting up these experiments, we've had to also, it's not overnight. Like we couldn't just like pivot obviously overnight, but we've also had to figure out, okay, well, if this is going to run in the background and we need this income, you know, we're obviously going to have to like weigh the tides of like, okay, well, this needs to happen here, this needs to happen there. And it's not going to be, I think Katie, you said this the other day, is like, there's no job where every single day is all fun and games. Like, I mean, unless you're like a clown doing fun and games all day, like there's, you got to book
they
the
have
jobs.
to go home and look at the balance sheet.
You got to evaluate. Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah,
it's a good reminder.
That actually came from my therapist, because I was even depressed the other day. Like I was in a really rough spot, and we were doing some of the things that supposedly were going to bring me out of the funk, you know? And she was like, what if you just need to sit with the fact that there is no job where you're going to be 100% happy all the time and feel 100% fulfilled? And I was like, I don't like that. But it's,
no thanks.
She definitely pushes me to understand that some of the feelings that I have are, like, therapy isn't about always making them go away. Like, sometimes that's just not possible. And so it's more about learning the coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
And that's a big lesson that I've had to learn. Like, especially as somebody that has, like, actual depression, like sometimes the chemicals in my brain are gonna go crazy. And there's my dog chiming in on it.
He's like,
I agree.
And I just have to be like, this is the place that I'm in, and there's gonna be ebbs and flows, and that's okay.
Totally.
Yeah.
Interesting. But you know, you could obviously look and say, the one thing you are doing is you're putting creative first, not revenue first. And maybe in so many other ways, the whole reason you're doing this was it was the opposite. And, you know, and I think I do that all the time. I don't know when creative, unless you're in the flow of a really great job and everything's great with the client, the process is working cool. That's to me when I go like, I forget about what I charge them or
so many people do that.
What I'm making, right?
So many people do that. And that's where it gets sticky, because you're like, you do deserve to be paid even though you love it. But I also think there's like strategic ways you can go about that. Like you can show the client what you envision and like these big ideas. Like you have to hold a little bit back, but you can show them and say, if you have budget, I'd love to explore this with you. And like,
ooh,
if they see it, they're like, oh shit, yeah, we should explore that. That looks really cool. And so I do think like we don't need to put these firm boundaries on our creativity where it's like you can only do what they paid you for. Like go ahead and over deliver. Like
that's right.
And also then say, if you want the rights to this or if you want to go down this avenue, like we will need to add an additional fee.
Correct.
But I think that's when we get in that flow state, we completely lose track. But that's kind of amazing. Like if you think of anyone else who was like in that field and money wasn't attached to it and they weren't self-employed, like that would be rewarded behavior if someone like went above and beyond.
Of course.
Yeah.
Right. And that's just exploration. It's experimenting.
Right.
It's like I've experimented with things like when you have a mascot or something cool with a client, like, can you take it into some kind of a merch thing and do a quick concept of it? They all of us, and you got them they're already excited. They know it's grand opening or whatever it might be. Of course but again, I love the way you framed it and saying like, just spend a little time showing you just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
What would that be something you'd be willing to go through? And if you got a good client that's got the good budget, like there's your way of like combining this whole thing of experiment, but also it pays off.
And also, you can still put that in your portfolio. Like, even if the client didn't take it, like, put that in there. Like, show the concept. Like, maybe that's the one reel that goes viral. And, someone's like, oh, that is so cool. We want to do that. I mean, you never know. And
it's true.
We talk about virality. And Katie literally this morning was like, we did this 30 days of posting. And obviously nothing went viral because that's not how virality works. But Katie did catch a viral cough. And she was like, maybe that's my virality.
Yeah.
That's the new future of going viral.
You never know who's going to see it.
Just and so literal.
Yeah.
So what are the specific revenue streams? How do you break it down of what you're exploring? What are those buckets?
So our Goodtype business, we're trying to separate from this 100K. So with Goodtype, we've got the educational stuff, we've got the current friends who are writing a book. So all that stuff we're setting aside, and that's
great.
That's working in a different bucket. And so in our actual Goodtype studio bucket, we're separating it into licensing and freelance work. And so we're tracking those separately. I don't know how familiar your listeners are with licensing. Should we?
We've talked about it a little bit, and a lot of them. It's a great question because a lot of them don't know that you can take the work in specific job opportunities and do the licensing. Tell us about like that.
Yeah, so the licensing bucket, basically licensing means you're renting your art for a client to use and put on a product. There's lots of different ways that licensing can be structured, but we're specifically talking about art licensing, putting art on things like greeting cards, on water bottles, on home goods, on apparel, on anything that has like a physical surface, basically. Our specialty is really in the greeting card and stationery area, but we're, excited to kind of expand that as we go along with the experiment. But yeah, so the interesting thing about licensing is you build a portfolio ahead of time. That we kind of look at it as like a menu in a restaurant. So when you go into a restaurant, you see already on the menu the things that you can order. So that's similar to a licensing portfolio, whereas a freelance portfolio, the client comes to you and says, oh, I've seen this previous work you've done. Can you make this new custom thing for me? Licensing, they look at your portfolio as is and pluck something right out of it. They might want to change a little color or massage a little something. But for the most part, you make the work ahead of time. They come and they pluck it out of your portfolio and put it on a product.
And they rent it. I love the way you put it
exactly.
that way. Yeah.
Yeah. So the renting is interesting, and there's lots of different ways that you can structure those agreements and what they're allowed to do with the art, and if they're the only people that can use the art, or if you have a non-exclusive agreement. Licensing can get really cool because you can rent the same piece of art to somebody in one industry and say put it on a greeting card, but over here you're going to put it on a water bottle, and then this other person's going to put it on fabric, or you can have it the same piece of work working in multiple places and the income's overlapping, which is really, really cool.
Great. So those two buckets are, again, you experimenting to see how they both work. How much time should we put into one? Is one killing it right now?
Licensing tends to have just lower budgets, lower price points. So we figured that we would say 40,000 of the 100,000 we're going to try to get to come from licensing, and then the other 60 is from freelance because there's a lot bigger budgets usually in that realm.
The other thing
how we're breaking it down.
Yeah, the other thing with the licensing is that we have the existing artwork we have some that's like whether it's not licensed or the license has expired. So we have so much to work with there.
Good.
That we can be pitching that.
Yeah.
that seems reasonable. Like if you were starting
and
from
we're
zero.
also creating,
Yeah,
we're also
great stuff.
adding new pieces that are collaborative between both Alana and I. But the interesting thing that we're doing is we're splitting everything financially 50-50,
Regardless.
whether it's something that Alana has created before she knew me or something that I have created before I knew her. It all goes into one pot, and we're equally invested in the success. And we're not like nickel and diming, like, oh, that one's mine, that one's yours. So I think this is
That's a good
healthy
partnership.
place to, exactly.
Well,
I
and
feel
the
good
thing
about it.
is, in order to book these jobs, we each have a different role as well. I mean, we're
Yeah.
both designers. We both work on projects, and but you know, I might do more of the outreach, or I might approve more social posts, or whatever it may be. And what's been really fun lately, which I don't know if we would have expected this to be so smooth back in the day, but even writing our book together, like very, very collaborative, is we figured out what each other's skill sets are. And so I have some old portfolio pieces, and Katie, I was like, I don't feel so good about adding these into our joint portfolio. And so Katie sat with me and we went through and said, like, what don't we like about it? What could improve? And gave a very like non-toxic critique. And Katie actually took some of those pieces and was able to make some adjustments to them, and then added a few more pieces to go with them. And that's been really cool, because you don't usually work with other designers in such a hands-on way. Like you don't toss a file back and forth as frequently. And then in some cases I might say I have an idea, and then Katie executes it, or I might execute an idea on my own, or same with, so it's just, there's no rule about how we work together, but we've just found ways that work really well for us.
And that
It's like
took
you're
a
flexible.
big foundation of trust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't think we could have come out the gate doing this. So it's really, really good that we had that foundation of trust in our educational business that was easier to establish, and then just naturally working together over time. Now we're doing something that our egos are just a little bit more fragile with, obviously, because it's creative work, but
Yeah.
we have that trust in each other to be able to communicate honestly and constructively about how to merge both of our voices. And I think we are able to communicate when there's, question marks about like, oh, I feel like I'm kind of getting buried in this piece, or like I want to have a little bit more of a voice in here. I feel like we're allowed to speak up and stuff when we feel like that.
That's great. I can only name maybe like a few people I'd be that comfortable with. Right?
I
Like,
mean, it's
like,
taking time.
It's so good.
For
It's
sure.
so
Yeah,
good.
for sure.
Yeah,
It's taken
we also don't work. We live in different states, so if we were sitting at a computer together, it might look really different. I'm just like trying to think of my design
you're right.
education.
The fact
So,
that you
like,
could throw it off and then like
Yeah.
get it back as a little like surprise nugget.
Yeah, you're like, I don't know
"Hey,
what
what
you
did you do to this thing?
Right. And so I'm trying to think of my design school experience. And like, I remember one class where we got to work with a photography student, but like I would go to the photo shoot and like help art direct, but the concept had to be from the two of us. And then I didn't know anything about photography. So I just was kind of there like, yeah, that looks great. And then they don't know what the design's going to look like. And so it wasn't very collaborative. And I can't remember any project where I worked with someone. I've only remember like we come up with a concept together and we each do our version of it. And so, I think it's been kind of quite refreshing to like, I think we assume that we're supposed to like struggle through certain things, and there's a point in a design process where I'm like, this is not where I thrive. But it's actually the exact point that Katie thrives at, which is like the detail and the finessing, and I'm like, fuck this, I'm out. Excuse my language.
Yeah, I do the same.
And so we're able to just like, I don't actually have to struggle through that. Like she can kind of know where I'm at and know where it's trying to go, and then she can come in and like clean it up. I feel like in some design worlds that's like a production role. Like when I worked in production, I would clean up everything that someone else did, but no one ever like taught me how to do that or like work with that person. It was very hands off. And so I guess we've sort of built that for ourselves, and that's so cool. Like Katie can focus on the spot that she really shines in, and I can focus on, like, I will literally give her a pencil sketch from the back of a napkin and she'll be like, I got this.
Yeah. Read between the lines, right?
Yeah, she gets it. I don't know how, but she did.
I like that it's that loose, because then I get
Your
room
own
for
freedom.
interpretation.
Yeah.
So
Correct.
yeah.
if it was too tight, you would just copy it in a way, right?
No, I wouldn't like that.
It's like planting a seed. Like, okay, I could take it from here, you know?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's great because I struggle with picking an idea and because I see all the options and the ways to go, and Alana's just like, boom, here it is.
Yeah,
go
I
in
mean,
this
we have
direction
20
and make it
minutes.
as
Pick this
go in
one.
this direction and make it as good as it can be, and like you have no other options. So
Yeah.
That's
Let
hilarious.
someone do the
Alana's like,
executive
do you think we
function."
have 3 weeks left? This is due in like 20 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a tough one. I know committing to something and seeing particularly young designers try to figure out those things to say like they want to experiment even more and more. And sometimes you do have to like know where to cap it, right? Like that's hilarious.
Well, that was the biggest difference between design school and going out in the real world for me, because in design school, in like my school specifically, we spent so much time on the process, which was an important thing to learn, but I had a distorted idea of how that would work in real life because of that. So I was like, oh, we'll get weeks for thumbnailing and refinement, and then weeks for critiques, and then because obviously they were drawing the process out so we could really understand it in design school. But when I got into the real world, the timelines were like a week for the whole project. And I was like, whoa. I don't feel confident and comfortable.
Helps you in that buffer between, right?
I don't feel confident and comfortable making these decisions that fast. Like I want to do the whole exploration. So I really had to shift my mindset into real world timelines, and that totally changed the way that I had to design and the way that I had to make decisions. And even in the art licensing world, time is money. So the faster you can make a piece, the better the return is when you get paid for that piece. So I only took 2 hours to make this piece and I make $1,000 from it. Great. Well, that $1,000 is going to be $1,000 whether it took 2 hours or 10 hours.
Yeah.
So you want to take the 2 hours. So I had to get really good at honing in on that idea, and then Alana helps me even more because she's just like, boom, here's that start, go for it.
That's really good. I think that's the best argument to anybody about learning that if it took you 10 minutes or 10 hours, you could still get paid the same, because doing it in 10 minutes means you've gotten better. You have a background of incredible talent and experience to know how to get it done faster now. And it's true. You struggle with that so many times. I see, like, I speed my class up tremendously, and they're like, what are you doing? There's no other classes like this. And I'm like, oh, I will get like cue to like a year later when they get their first job and they're texting me going like, you're right.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I think I love that you're doing that, and you're changing how things are working for them, as like, you know, we've all heard the like typical design. Yeah, exactly. But I think also the world of social media has made it so confusing, because in design school for us, like everything was this like hypothetical, and then if you were to see that and then go online and see something completely different, that's like two polar opposites. And so I think bringing that reality and also setting that pace, like it's fast out here, and also you get to decide what pace you take things at. And so I hope we can, as a whole, like start to break up from this like need to do things so quickly and expectations for things to happen like overnight. I had this realization to Katie yesterday, and she was like, everybody knows this, but I always think that like when I sit down to work, I need to like finish something. Like I need to finish a task, whether it's like prepare this outline. And I said to her, this is me being neurodivergent. But I said, I sat down today and I was like, I didn't get anything done because I didn't cross anything off my list. But I realized I actually made a big dent on one of the things on my list, and I couldn't break it down into like a smaller task. It was just one task, but it was one that would take me some time, and I just didn't finish it. And I was like, I still made a ton of progress even though I didn't finish it today. And she was like, yeah, that's
how have you been working? I was like, there's no way you can finish things every time you sit down and have that expectation. No wonder you're stressed.
Or like to be good at it. Like I think we expect, because we see people on social media be like, I started to crochet 3 days ago and look at me now. And you're like, and you edited this video in that time?
While becoming a sourdough baker master at the same time.
Oh my God. Also, I will say my husband started making sourdough and I don't know how, but he got it right. Or I just
There you go.
love the bread so much that I wouldn't
Oh,
know if it was bad.
stop.
Maybe that's
Yeah.
it. But
That's the best.
yeah, we like expect that it's going to happen overnight. We're going to be successful no matter what. We're seeing a highlight reel. And I think that's got to be a really hard climate, especially if you're like literally a student.
Yeah.
You know,
The world's
balancing
telling
that.
them that. The world's telling them. And then you throw in this layer of AI and it's like, okay, because everybody is expecting things faster. And we were talking about it in class the other day and my student just goes, who's really asking for things to be done faster?
Yeah,
And
not me.
And I couldn't answer the question. I was like,
Yeah.
it's so smart. Like, is this just technology and the social media machine? I guess, or consciously or not, it's pushing us to be like, I have to be faster, because everyone tells you how much content has, particularly in social media, which I just don't put in that category of like.
Yeah.
I could separate that from real content work that you're doing for clients and
Right.
brands.
Right.
But it's like, who is asking for it to be so fast? And is that the demand of the industries and the companies that need to have a new ad on social media every, 4 times a day?
You know, that's
weird.
a really
It's
good
feeding
ask,
itself.
too.
It's
Yeah.
like a loop.
And it's
that,
funny because the people who we've worked with who are like kind of tech companies or like bigger companies, they say they need it really fast. Actually, all the big companies we've worked with, they say they need it really fast. Like they're like, this is a tight deadline. And then it takes them 3 weeks to get back to us.
Yes,
And
every
they're
time.
like, the deadline is far gone. Like, I don't know why you needed us to rush this when you had this much time. Like, maybe they just knew it would take them 3 weeks to like
Yeah.
just say this looks good?
I think they play the world that tech is so fast, but then they're not aware that they probably just can't make decisions,
Yeah.
or whatever it is.
Something's
so
wrong.
they want to put the act out there that we're lightning speed in everything we make, but work with us and it's a totally different thing.
Yeah, it's so interesting. That's such a good point about the speed. I'm so glad
speed.
your student asked that question because that's a good one.
I know. I love being kind of like, I have no answer. That's a great point, and I'm
Great
even
question.
asking. I'm
Yeah.
even asking myself. Shout out to Caitlin.
Oh, hey, Caitlin.
Yeah. What are now that you've experimented and you're in this zone, what is a small, like, low risk experiment that a designer or an artist can try today that just gives them, like, if they're inspired by what you've been doing, what could they try?
Well, we did our 30-day post and we kept it like very low stakes. We like didn't
Good.
create new work. So we weren't like creating reels or documenting our life. We were just posting old art. So I think you could post your work on any platform, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's Instagram, Pinterest, whatever. You could do that. And also you get to create your own boundaries. So like we said, no weekends. We said like, it doesn't come before other things. It's okay if you skip a day. But I also think you could create a daily practice for yourself and say, I'm going to draw every day for 15 minutes. Or I'm going to do, like, I know people, the artist way morning pages. Like, I'm going to write for 10 minutes every morning and fill up 3 pages and see how I feel. You could turn anything in your life into a game. Like, gamify it and make a prize at the end. Like, for sure, make a prize.
yeah, I think you can definitely do experiments that are like, can I do outreach today? Or, things that you think are directly going to impact your business potentially, but it's also really fun to do those creative challenges. And like Alana was saying, even like experimenting with the medium, like pushing yourself to try something with markers that are almost out of ink today.
Ooh, yeah.
Or
A challenge there.
Yeah, like I'm going to pick up a crayon, or I'm going to try to make a cool designy collage with stuff that I find outside, or, give yourself like a fun creative experiment to do, to just like get that creative spark going again.
I think
Yeah.
the thing with those is that the most important thing is to detach it from like virality, because I like recently saw the one that was like, I made a typeface out of sriracha or something. And I was like, that is so cool. But like, So your goal shouldn't be, I'm going to document this and make it. The goal should be to do it for yourself. So see how you feel. And
you might even put a limitation on yourself where you're not allowed to share it on social media, just to make sure it purely is coming from that place
authentic.
Exactly.
You brought up the best segue. I have a graphics 1 class, and we have a whole week of typography, right? They take a separate typography class, but this is like super intro. They all come in with their A to Z hand drawn on paper. And this one girl's hard at work on her computer. I'm like, where's your paper? She's like, oh, I hope I didn't do it wrong. I go, what do you mean? And she opens up like 26 JPEGs. She did it with honey on paper.
That's
and
cool.
She took a picture of each one, and she thought she did it wrong. And I was like, no,
you did it so right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so cool.
Awesome.
And we're using FontSelf, the app.
That's awesome.
To bring it over and make them a font. And it was the first time that I was almost a little bit like, I was like, wait, how do we auto trace this to keep the consistency of everything it is and put it into FontSelf to work? And we found this perfect balance in like image trace to kind of get all the grit and all the highlights and the shadows.
Cool.
But isn't that like,
That's amazing.
This wasn't for social media or anything else. To see that she thought that it in such an elementary class was so awesome.
That's so cool. Go ahead, Katie.
I was going to bring up the thing you talk about all the time, the beginner's mind, which it sounds like she had here in the concept of Shoshin. Maybe you should talk about it since it's kind of
you're doing great. Keep going. I love it. Keep going.
Yeah, I think just coming at things without a preconceived notion of what it should be, or without, knowing too much about type, and just coming in and being like, I don't know, I'll make it in honey. Why not? Those kind of approaches are so great when you're a beginner, and then you kind of lose that if you're not careful as you go along, because you see how people solve a problem and you start to get boxed into just those options of like how other people are solving the problem, when really maybe it's over here, the answer's way over here, and you just are so closed off you can't see it. So we love to revisit that beginner's mind and try to put ourselves back in that place and remember what that feels like.
When I used to be an adjunct, I taught like a Type 101 class. And then I also had a full-time job at that same university as like an art director. And the coolest thing was I got to hire students to work for me like as their on-campus job. And the thing that I took away from them, especially as someone who was so burnt out and wanted to go work for myself, was they were like so hungry. Like I would give them an assignment and they would come back just like that with like the sky was the limit. Like they were full on ready to
budget,
experiment. There was no
timeline.
Right. There was no like, oh, they might not like this. There was like, does this work? Does this solve the problem? And I was like, you're so good. Like, and it wasn't even that the like design was necessarily good. It was just that they had that barrier down. And I think that the minute we start to like, whether it's look for vanity metrics or tie a paycheck to it or any of that, we lose touch with that. And that's like that's when it goes downhill. And when you can just play and you can just experiment, it's just so much more fun. And so that beginner's mindset. Also, I like
was that a book? Was that a book or anything, or is it just a philosophy? It's
a philosophy. I think it was a Buddhist philosophy, and I read about it from Ali Abdal, who's like a doctor turned YouTuber, and he like talks a lot about productivity. It's very cool.
That's like a whole episode idea right there. I love that.
It's so great. And then the other thing I was going to say is with her honey, it sounds like it could be like an SVG font, but like I don't know if there's a program that could, because I think now there probably is that could do that, but how cool if it would translate into like a full color. I mean, that'd be so cool. It'd be like a
how cool if
font.
it could be a variable and you could get like thicker honey or thinner.
Oh, that'd be so crazy.
And like it starts to like merge into
Who
the
do we
other
know
letters.
Who that? We need a real type designer to come in.
That's kind of the next, I would even call them live type. Like, like remember when live became part of like Procreate, where things can kind of blend together when you do it on the screen? Like no font is connecting to the next one in an organic way. but
Yeah.
be a like the variable slider. That would
Yeah.
be
That
incredible.
would be super cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't think your student knew what
I know.
the magic
Full-
that they were touching on.
Cat's out of the bag.
Open a wormhole. Yeah.
Yeah.
Real quick, how do you guys navigate any like uncertainty and financial pressures as an artist? Because like we've talked a lot about blue sky here, but like the reality is,
Yeah.
we got to get there. So how do you navigate those uncertainties? You making quick actions around there? What do you guys do, particularly as a team?
Yeah, it's lucky that we have each other, because the pressures of that when you're by yourself is, it's daunting. We each felt it when we were on our own, and it's just helpful to have another brain at your disposal. So that's one of the things that helps us, I think. And then we believe in setting up multiple income streams for artists. So if you are an artist who does freelance and you have a month where clients' projects are very sparse and you're stressing out, it's really nice to have like royalties coming in from a art licensing job you did like a year ago to give you a little baseline. You might also have like online courses where some of that passive income is coming in. We really love setting up those passive income streams as well as a couple active ones so that we're never just relying and putting our eggs in one basket, because that's a really scary gamble to make as an artist. And then I think also having savings and preparing as much as you can for the inevitability of having a couple of slow months is something that we really want to make sure is always in place so that we're not freaking out, when there's a rough spot in our business.
And I think we're also trying not to chase shiny pennies, which is hard because I love a shiny penny. But, our end goal isn't to be millionaires. Our end goal is to make a nice salary as a working artist. And so, we were really lucky to be able to say we have the opportunity right now to do this experiment, knowing that our other income streams will continue, like are set up to continue working for us. And we have a book deal, so we have a payment coming from that. And so we didn't just like throw caution to the wind. We knew that we had a buffer, and the timing worked out. And when both of us went to leave our full-time jobs, we did the same thing where we were like, okay, how much money do we have saved? How long can we do this? And also, how long are we giving ourselves to try this before we have to try something else? And that doesn't mean giving up. That means trying plan B, which might be adding a new income stream and trying that for some time. And so, yeah, this definitely is like a very calculated decision. And we're very fortunate that we have our other income streams to fall back on. But also, I think there's something about a creative entrepreneur where like, we're going to make it work. Like,
exactly.
If it doesn't work, we're not calling it quits. If it doesn't work, we're trying a new technique to make it work.
So like, back. Yeah.
If we don't get this 100K, or like if 6 months in we haven't made a dent, then great, we haven't done enough outreach, or we haven't, tried this revenue, or we need to raise our prices, or X, Y, and Z. And it's amazing to me how many creative entrepreneurs I have who are friends that say like, I'm not sure where the next job is coming, and then like the next day they're like, it's in my inbox, and I'm like, I don't know how it's working, but we're out. Like, I hate saying we're like hustling, but like if you are this excited and passionate about it, like you're gonna fight to make it work. It's not gonna come in your lap. You're gonna fight to make it work.
We have a very detailed business plan that we do every year, and so we went through each income stream and said we want to get, and it was also based on the previous year's actual revenue because we had that to look at, and we say, goals for each different revenue stream, and then that's not where it ends. We don't just say we want this much money, end of story. We say, okay, here's the steps that we're going to take to generate that revenue. Okay, if it's $40,000 in this area, how many sales do we need to make at what average price or whatever. Okay, we know the sales. How are we going to go and get those sales? So we have action steps, and then we put those on the calendar, and we have,
Good.
things laid out, and we know what are we going to do in the month of May and June. And those things change and morph as we see actual data coming in, but we do have like a big overview of the steps that we need to do, because otherwise it would be so overwhelming and so up in the air.
You're just guessing at that point if you didn't have
Exactly.
it. So is that what you use for like this visual dashboard, is just what you've marked on the calendar once you put that plan together?
Yeah, so we have those exact steps that we need to do, and then we have this section we have a Notion dashboard. That's how we keep everything together. And then we have this section that's like goals, and I go in and fill it out like every month and show the actual like percentage that we are towards our goals, so we can see, are we, under or over on this one section? Do we need to revisit? Do we need to shuffle some things around? So, that's been really helpful for us.
That's great. I love it. So much good inspiration. I think people will really take on this. And I think you got to hear other examples from people who are, and you're in the middle of it. That's the coolest part too. It's not like, hey guys, we're done. Let's tell you all the great things that happened here and everything. Where can the listeners follow along and engage and see how your experiments are doing? Where's the best spot?
Well, we're posting on Instagram, so at Goodtype on Instagram, and you can see all the stuff that we're doing on our website as well, goodtype.us. Cool. And then we've also been updating our YouTube channel with some of the experiments. We'll have another one up there soon. That's under Goodtype as well.
Yeah, and then
awesome.
On our podcast too. Did you
Good.
say that?
Send me, send me all the links so we can have it in there as well.
Yeah, the Typecast is our podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, the perfect name. Don't you love it when the pun just like, and nobody else has it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
My favorite thing. Yeah, our conference was my favorite moment. I just was like, Alana, you need to sit down. I've got the name.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, she delivered.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank you guys so much again. I'm glad we were able to get this all done, and it's been a blast chat with you guys.
You too.
Yeah, you
Thanks
too.
so much.
Thanks for what you do.
Oh, my pleasure, guys.
Deeply graphic.